morning, everyone. There is nothing more exciting than being the first breakout session after Monday night's cocktail party. So I want to thank Unity for that. That's awesome. My name is Gordon Schenk. I'm with Vuforia. I run the entertainment business, which basically, as my wife puts it, means my business card should say adult child. So it works out great. But more importantly, I get to hang out with these awesome people on stage and make toys and AR experiences with them. So one of the things we're noticing is that we think 2017 is going to be the sort of bellwether year for more mainstream integration of XR, AR, and toys. So we're looking forward to what Santa's going to bring this Christmas, and then there's a lot of awesome plans, I think, in the works for 2018. We'll hear about some of that today, whatever we can and can't talk about, but it'll be pretty exciting. One of the things we're noticing is things sort of fall into three buckets. There's companies with existing awesome brands that are now revitalizing those brands and reimagining them for the new future. Then there's the companies that have really great consumer electronics products that are adding an XR component to it. And then finally, you've got the brand new startups that are inventing entire new ways of doing really cool gameplay. So we've got three of those represented here today. So we're going to get right into it. First up, we've got Steve with Mattel.
Am I on? You want to play this?
I'm getting results from the back computer.
Attention, incoming transmission.
Batman, I'm Robin Babylon.
Yeah. So my name is Steve Fulton. I'm the Senior Manager of Digital Innovation for Mattel Connected Play. And we've been doing AR since 2013. We started with Vuforia on a product called Hot Wheels Triple Track Twister. And that was like you would stick an iPad. You stick an iPad like in front of a Hot Wheels track set. And the idea behind that was toys were getting so expensive to build these. We'd build like these sharks that jump out and giant apes that they said, that's too expensive. What if we stuck an iPad there and made it happen on iPad instead? It worked kind of. It's okay. The problem is that the iPad, the kid is playing here and they're looking here and they're trying to figure out what to do. We had a couple other products like that, but I think the minute we started working with Google with Cardboard, and we started playing around with the idea that we would take the ViewMaster reels and make them AR tags. The minute you took the ViewMaster up to your face and saw the AR tag, like, oh, I get it. Now AR is now here. And so I think that was the exciting part about that product.
Very cool. Next up, we've got John with Draw and Code. Play your video? Or, yeah.
So I'm John Keefe. I'm the director of Draw and Code, and we're an immersive technology studio based in the UK, based in Liverpool. We've been working with AR for about 6 years now, and sort of similar with Unity. Sort of from the kind of video you see there, there's a mixture of kind of VR and AR work that we're doing, and actually we do some interesting crossover stuff. Our main sort of product we've been working on recently is Swapbots, which is an augmented reality toy. It's sort of pretty simple technology, but it's quite effective in that it's a sort of very combination style play. So you can start with a set of 3 characters that will create 27 different combinations, and there's kind of games that are played kind of between on and off screen, essentially.
Very cool. And last but not least, we have Nick with Spin Master.
The world of gaming just got real. Introducing the AirHogs Connect mission drone. Pilot a real AirHogs drone inside a fully immersive and interactive AR world. Yeah! Navigate your rescue drone and lead missions through endless levels inside an ever-changing city under siege.
Alien captured and retained.
Plus, the action doesn't stop while you charge because you can keep playing. Level up at HQ, rank up through challenges, unlock new equipment, and hone your skills inside the virtual training system. Or pilot your drone in free flight mode. The future of RC gaming is here.
Safe and sound.
AirHogs Connect Mission Drone. Connect with the future. From Spin Master. Drift!
Thanks. Hi, I'm Nick. Good morning, everyone. I wish I could do like the whole talk in that guy's voice. It would be awesome. I've been working in AR less than these two fine gentlemen. We started probably in end of 2014. Run a group within Spin Master, the studios group, and our core charter is really to blend physical play with digital play. Right? You know, at our core, we're a toy company. As technology becomes more and more pervasive, you know, iPad, smartphone stuff, kids move to that and away from traditional toys. So we try and find organic ways to keep them. And one of the things we really love about augmented reality is it's very natural, right? Kids are very open to technology and very receptive. They just expect it to work. They don't have the wow moments that any of us have. And so when we do something where we can take traditional RC play and then apply video game play patterns on top of it and use augmented reality to tie it all together, it just works wonderfully from a kid's perspective.
So along those lines, Nick, let's start with you. What's the main difference in designing from a UI, UX perspective for kids versus, say, for adults?
A lot of different things. Some things are kind of funny and stuff that you don't expect. You know, for something like Mission Drone where you're holding that iPad, kids are weak, right? They can't hold something for a long period of time, and they get tired and they get fatigued. And you know, their natural, if you see them play, their natural position is they're like lying on their stomach on the floor with their device in front of them, or they're sitting cross-legged and doing it like that. And so you have to think about how they're going to behave rather than how you want them to behave. And I think that's one of the biggest ones, is that's more the UX side of things.
Yeah, I mean, I've never designed dolls before, so it's a new area. So we've only really worked with kind of user experience from an AR point of view. So we have had kind of those similar challenges, and you know, we'll adopt things like you're playing off a stand, for example, to help deal with the fatigue issue. But we wanted to kind of switch the play around so that you can both play with the physical toy and kind of then actually interact with it from an AR point of view. And what we really like about the AR element is you know, the elements where you do pick up the device and move it around and using that as an input method as opposed to just a window into this immersive experience, essentially.
Awesome.
Well, I mean, a lot of those things are the same. I'd say that, you know, usually when kids have not seen AR before, it's amazing to them. But a lot of our issues, a lot of our challenges with UX come for safety issues, right? So we've got like, we can't make an VR HMD, for example. We can't strap it to a kid's head. That's a safety issue. So we have to work around that. We have to design for, you know, pass-back devices. The idea that young kids have older devices. So how do we design an immersive AR, VR experience that works on an iPhone 5?
Right. Yeah. They're not going to get the latest Tango phone, I guess,
They're
not for a while. Huh?
Yeah.
They should, though, right?
Yeah.
Kids are generally about 5 years behind technologically.
Yeah.
So what are the other, like, how did you dive into AR for the first time? What was the decision-making process of why? Maybe starting with...
Well, that's pretty easy. So, you know, I don't want to say struggled, but we've been trying for a very long time to figure out how digital meets physical products, right? That's what our group does. Nick, sounds like your group does the same thing. And I think the idea behind it is that adding electronics to toys is very expensive. We're a very price-conscious industry. And so the idea that an AR overlay could add a digital experience with only the cost of software, which is still expensive, but it's a totally different cost factor than adding to the BOM of a toy, is very attractive to our toy groups. So I don't think we've cracked the nut yet, but I still think that's an area where we are going to be.
Sure. What got Spin Master into it initially, there's a gentleman in the company named Connor Forkin, and he's sort of the design visionary for the AirHogs line. And he watches a lot of Star Trek. And one of the things he really liked about it was the hologram room, the holodeck, and all that. He's like, I want to find some way where I can have my toys and a holodeck experience, and AR seemed the most natural route. And so that was sort of the whole precipitation, right? So thank you, Star Trek.
Very cool. You get to thank Star Trek for a lot of things. John, I mean, your company essentially started.
Yeah, so as a work-for-hire studio, I think it was about 6 years ago, we were introduced to, someone showed me an AR demo. It was pretty simple. And we just captivated by the potential of the medium. So we downloaded the Vuforia SDK and we kind of did the whole teapot, pebble kind of demo.
I've seen that.
And that was it. I think it was just seeing it from that moment. We were working on a project with an architect, I think, and it was completely away from toys. But the people's faces just lit up when you showed them this experience. And actually, they were less looking at the content. They were just kind of amazed by what they were seeing. So we from that point, we were intrigued by actually, if this is how adults kind of react to it, what are kids going to think of this? Where, they already have imaginations that surpass ours. So, when you actually bring their toys of physical objects to life, it's, we instantly sort of fell in love with that idea.
Very cool. So along those lines, actually, does anybody have a favorite story or anecdote about seeing the kids using the toys, or something funny that happened, or maybe a surprise that you weren't expecting? Anybody want to share something?
I'll share something. So after Toy Fair this year, we went up to we were kind of filming bits of video, just content of the game being played out, because the game is played out in a very contextual way. It's sat, in the world around you. So we wanted to try and find the best scene to play the game out. So we went to the top of the Rockefeller Center with a view of the Empire State Building. And there we are having this kind of two-player Swapbots battle between two of us. And we suddenly realized there was a crowd of people just kind of watching us. There's this incredible view, and we're just playing this game, and everyone just kind of stopped looking at the skyline and just looking at this game and experience. And it was, that was really exciting for us to see that reaction.
So AR actually trumps the entire skyline of New York. That's so cool. Anybody else? Nick?
Yeah, I think the thing that made us realize or work on something that's pretty cool was 2 CESs ago in Vegas in January. We had this set up, and we're demoing that product publicly for the first time. And CES is all these crazy regulations and all this stuff. So we had to be in an enclosed space, and we made a mesh Faraday cage around it so we get signals. So we had this really kind of crazy looking square area under a metal screen and these big monitors. And whenever we'd start doing demos and they'd see someone in this weird Faraday cage flying a drone, they go, oh, okay, that person's flying a drone, who cares? And then we'd have the monitor streaming directly from the iPad of them flying the drone, and they could see the AR experience, and they're flying the drone, and they're in the science fiction world battling aliens in an alien invasion and rescuing stuff. And you just see people go, they look at the drone, and they look at the screen, and they look at the drone, and they look at the person next to them and go, oh, shit. Mm-hmm. And just seeing that epiphany moment again and again and again. It was a good show.
Nice.
That's funny. I was at the CES and I saw that. I'm like, God damn, they got it.
He's like, oh boy, now we got to do something.
So, for us, this isn't really funny, but it had more to do with the business of Viewmaster. It was very hard to understand how to market that product, whether it was for kids. It is for kids, but it is a technology that was not really ready for kids yet, I guess. So I remember going through a couple years of us selling and marketing, and I went to my kids' career day, and I brought the ViewMaster. And it's a bunch of second graders, like, 100. And I bring it out, and they're like, "What's that? That's amazing." I show it to them and think it's great. And I'm like, how come we never got to these kids? Like, how come they don't know what this is? So that's I don't know, getting to the kids to show them and explain what it is, I think that's very challenging for us.
But you were like the cool dad that day for sure, right?
For that
Hands
day.
down, yeah.
For that day.
Fireman and then Steve from Mattel. So we got a lot of developers in the audience. So maybe some insight as to what are some things that developers should think about when they're first starting to work in AR and gameplay with toys, and then sort of a follow-on to that, how would they work with, or how could they contact and work with people like Mattel and Spin Master and Draw and Code? Any order.
Well, I'll say first, I'll just say that the thing that got us at the beginning, and our brands want us they've been wanting us to recognize toys for a long time, whether it's just recognition for computer vision, to recognize for collection, to recognize for AR. One of the very hard things is articulation, right? So the idea that, if arms move, if legs move, and you're trying to do straight image recognition to then overlay AR, it's very hard, right? Barbie hair is a nightmare when you're trying to do recognition, right? But they still want us to try to do it. So that's something where if you have like your stuff, like the Swapbots, I think is an almost perfect implementation, where you used it to the best of its abilities, I believe, to recognize, and being able to find something that is like cars or something where they're not articulated, where they're big enough to recognize as 3D objects or even recognize as 2D images, and then overlay on top. If you're working with toys, to me, that's the goal right now. I do think some sort of machine learning, computer vision will help us solve the articulation problem, but we're not quite there yet.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was at the heart of when we were designing Swapbots, is actually we understood the technology pretty well. We'd been working with Vuforia for quite a long time, and we had sort of tried other engines out, but we designed a lot of the sort of form around the function of Vuforia so that we knew that the ideas behind it we could actually deliver. So that was very much the process, and to get to that place, we had done years of R&D in around AR, and we kind of knew what interactions were working. And even now we're still learning, because you make your assumptions, and it's a lot easier to prototype products now like this, even for small studios like ours. It's a 3D printer. We use a leather factory to print onto the toys randomly. They have a UV printer, and we saw it one day, and so we kind of get to a point of creating a toy for very little money and then testing that product out. But the kind of key is when you put it in front of kids and what they do with it, and they will obviously not behave as you expect them to, but it's kind of that feedback between your end kind of user, I guess.
Yeah, and I think something sort of subsumed in everything that both these gentlemen said is like computer vision is the new hotness, right? When you're thinking about what you're doing with AR, and starting with something like great foundation like Vuforia provides, something like that, it's you need this art director say this thing to me a long time ago. It was it's not the tools, it's the artist, right? A great artist can make something regardless of the tools that you give them. And so think a lot when you're starting something in AR, what is it that you're bringing to the table that's uniquely you, right? And how is it that what you're doing in AR is sort of building upon that and magnifying that? And I think that, as you're going the building blocks and trying to get somewhere is what's your thumbprint on it? What are you doing, right? Anyone in the world can download Vuforia. What makes your implementation of it special, right? And really focus on that. And so far as to like reaching out and working with us, we're easy, right? We love Inventor Reach Out. It's really easy to find us. You can go to our website, drop us an email. We've got a whole at this point, super streamlined process, and we love hearing from everyone, right? We never know where innovation comes from. We just know it's out there. So, good luck.
So I guess we've got a little bit of time for questions from the audience. So if anybody would like to ask a question, there's a microphone right there. And
Hi, Bill Meyer from the Virtual Science Center. You guys are great. So I have a kind of a higher level question. When you're developing for augmented reality on, and you have these physical objects, how do you sort of decide how much should actually be physically instantiated and how much should be digital? And how, like, what's your process and where do you sort of see that going?
I think you're going to get 3 different answers here. For us at the core, we're a toy company, right? And so the physical good is the most important thing to the company as a whole at the end of the day. And so that gives it a little bit more weight in our decision-making process. So we want something, the toy to be the basis. And then, the one thing about this technology is it's wonderfully named. We want to then augment that reality of the toy, and how is it that we can plus up that experience and make it more engaging and have people play with it longer and have them show it off to their friends, right? So that's really what we look for at that process is how do we make the toy better? How do we get those viral moments? Get it playground cool and go from there.
It's. I guess because we're a technology company. I'm from the sort of development side, and my co-founder is an animator designer by kind of trade. So we kind of sit on both sides of it. So I'm trying to solve the technology problems while he's thinking about aesthetic. And in this case, this is our first toy, but it's kind of in everything we do there is this kind of a physical element to it. So and then I have to solve the problems for it. But this one actually we'd solved a lot of the or Vuforia had solved a lot of the tech problems for us, and then we kind of create layers on top of that, and then a lot of the aesthetic had to come because of the fact they were designing around function. But I think sometimes that is a nice way to look at it is solving those problems to get to a point where we're kind of reaching that kind of shared vision of how it's working from an interactive standpoint and how it visually appears.
For us, it's all about plastic. We really want to sell plastic, which is why we had physical products on the shelf for Viewmaster. It was because even our team was really against it. We wanted to do it all digitally. We had to sell something at retail, which was challenging for that product. But I'd say that it's all about the engagement loop, what Nick was referring to, about, and us tweaking that about how much we'll get the kid to play the digital and come back to the physical and keep going. I will say, a couple of things from the last question, just really quick. I think cards are cheap to print. If you want to prototype your own game, make something, do it with some type of game cards or something that you can figure out whether something's going to work. And I think our invention process is much murkier than yours. So if you're an AR company and you're interested, contact me. We'll.
There you go.
Great answers. Thank you.
Anybody else? Any other questions? Good brave souls. There we go.
So Steve mentioned that HMDs for kids are verboten, but I saw that Drawcode was using HMDs in your demo video. What do you guys feel is like the current feeling around HMDs on kids? What pushback have you gotten, and do you see that feelings are shifting?
So I think on the from the work we were doing, we're working with Merge, and so obviously they have their headset that's designed for kind of younger children, but I think it's still 13 plus. Is that the current age limit on most HMDs?
Now if it's pass through, if it's not
Right.
if it's not a video screen, right? If it's actually passing through a piece of glass or plastic, that's okay. You can wear that. It's when it's a video screen and it's because of the lag. We're worried that a kid will keep at their head and the dog will run by. It'll be 2 frames behind. They'll fall down the stairs. Like that's the issue that they're worried about.
And also with the Merge VR, the HMDs actually rubberized foam, right? So it's not a hard piece of plastic as well. So if the kid does fall down, it's a little better that way. So, but it's an interesting challenge because I think as that technology starts to go down in price point and HoloLens and all these things go down in price point, it'd be interesting to see what can develop and how we can work around some of those rules.
A great workaround is, again, you always want it's a toy. You want to play with it, right? You want to play with your friends with it. Do streaming, right? Stream sharing. You're playing with it. You're having the experience. Your friend puts on the HMD. Then there's no issue.
So it sounds. I was expecting more concerns about eye strain, but
That's more VR,
safety.
Yeah.
right? With VR, where it's crossing your eyes for protracted periods of time and all that sort of stuff. This is AR.
Yeah.
It's so much better.
Yeah, for the VR, we did have some doctors look at that. We designed a lot of the experience to be very short for that reason. So 5, 10 minutes, something like that.
Are there any other along those lines? Yeah, go ahead.
It's a pretty quick and easy one. Some great toys, some great samples you guys have shared with us today. Are there any good examples that aren't from your companies that are out there that demonstrate some other good uses of AR for kids? Probably not, right?
Yeah, no, I don't know. It's probably easier for me to answer that. Yeah. I like everything that these guys do, but we're doing some work with the Merge Cube, and I feel like that's a really neat kind of way of interacting when you're in that kind of MR experience. But I also like Osmo. I think that is a kind of it's a slightly different kind of take on AR essentially, but I like the kind of simplicity that it adopts and the kind of puzzles being played out in front of you. So I think there's some really neat products out there.
What was the one you guys did with Lego? The next
I was going to say I didn't want to. So one of the more successful ones out there is one called Nexo Knights with Lego, where the knights had little shields, and the shields used one of our technologies called a view mark. So each shield had a different view mark, a different power. So exactly to what Steve was saying about selling more plastic or getting involved in collectible gameplay. You buy more shields, and the really cool thing too is if you can figure out a good marketing campaign to interact along those lines. What they did do pretty well was they had print ad, TV ad, and of course the boxes, and everything was recognizable. So you would they would literally pause the video on the TV screen, and you would power up with your shield, and then you would go to your knight and get another shield. And so those kinds of interactions work really well. And so we kind of call it product companion. So number one, it does a lot of things. It helps sell plastic, which is very important for the toy companies. And secondly, it gets the kids to physically play with something, which is really important for development. As much as it's great to do a lot of iPad games and all those things, most of you know, because you're all been kids, it's like much more fun to actually physically do something with it and then interact with it on a whole different level. So, anybody else over there? We're doing good.
Everyone watch him walk. Don't be self-conscious.
Hey, so I have a 5-year-old, and I develop for VR for work. And so I've had him come in, hold a Gear VR, and check it out. He loves it. It's just a simple 360 video, and he starts, it's like a corporate video, and he'll start trying to punch things, and like he gets really immersed. Is there, I guess, is there any medical concerns? Like, should I be concerned about him? You mentioned eye strain, and then 2, is it something with parent supervision that we can see something that this can be allowed for younger kids? Because I had to make sure he didn't walk into stuff, but when I was there, it was fine.
I think if you look at the genesis on VR of sort of like the early companies, and at first there's no age range, and then it's 8 and up, and then it's 13 and up, and I think the real answer is because the technology is so new, it's ahead of where regulation is, right? So you do know that for certain of the devices, you have that whole like the photons per pixel issue and things like that, and it'll cross your eyes, right? And so a lot of what happens when you're doing VR is you're crossing your eyes for a protected period of time, and don't know what that result is if you're forcing eyes to be crossed before the eyes have matured, right? And so for me personally, I don't let. My kid's 18, so she can do whatever the hell she wants. But my friends' kids, I generally warn them away. I'm like, look, if they want to experience it once or twice, totally cool. But if you're going to do it for protracted periods of time, I personally don't advise against that.
Sure. Yeah, and I'd say again, short time periods. We did have to age up as well, like start aging up. But what we did find something interesting. We found out that kids who are just experiencing VR now, their eyes are very resilient. They're actually sort of learning. They haven't experienced enough of the world, outside before that. This was not bothering them as much as it was actually bothering adults. So who who thought they knew what VR was, and then they started experiencing it, I guess.
Thank you.
Do we have time for one more? One more. Last call. Heard that last night, too.
I saw yesterday the announcement about Vuforia and Tango, which was very exciting. And I was just wondering, Tango was officially launched last November, if any of you have any Tango apps in development, and how you feel about Tango generally in terms of the future of AR.
So we worked with a company, I think their name is Milk Room, and they did a Hot Wheels Tango app that was not that. It mapped your room, but it didn't create a virtual version of the space. It's still a 3D sort of graphic space to create a Hot Wheels track set. And we want to take that to the next level and make it map your room. So we think it's cool. I think there's a lot more internal industrial uses for Tango. Virtual samples, for example, building samples is really expensive for toy companies. So the ability to build samples and have people look at them in a way that it looks like they're real toys in a real kid's room is really important. And we do like Tango, but I mean the device penetration, I mean, again, we had to try to hit iPhone 5s for better for worse for VR, and there's now 2 devices that do Tango. So it's going to be hard for us to justify going there until there's better device penetration.
Yeah, I think the 2020 time frame, kids will be playing with Tango phones, right? But then the adults will hand them off. So.
I think the best thing about Tango or the 7S Plus, whatever the hell it is, it's the stereoscopic cameras, right? Having the 2 cameras on the device that frees you up from having to have, or potentially frees you up from having to have fiducial markers. Right, you can start getting more in the slam area of things, and so regardless of whether it's Tango or whether it's the Apple phones, the more and more that you see stereoscopic cameras on consumer level devices, the happier you should be over time.
Okay.
So thanks everybody. There's a couple demos at our booth down below of the Swapbots and the Merge Cube, and we've got Spin Master stuff there, and we've got the ViewMaster there, and I assume you guys are going to have some great stuff for the coming holiday season, perhaps, and certainly 2018. And I want to thank you all for participating in the panel, and let's do this again. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Gordon.